So welcome to my conversation here today with Brita Fernandez Schmidt, who is a transformational coach and author of the most amazing book, which I have here to hand, called Fears to Fierce. Highly recommend it. Highly recommend it. Thank you, Brita, and thank you for joining me today. I was just wondering if we could just start off by you explaining who you are and what your story is and how you've ended up doing what you're doing.
Yes, just a small question there, Jackie.
Yes,
exactly.
Quite short. We've got lots to talk about.
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, thank you so much for inviting me to have this conversation with you. I'm so happy to be here. Yeah, so I work as a transformational coach and author and public speaker at the moment. And it's really interesting. One of the things that I have spoken about in my book and that I've thought about a lot is that I don't really want to define myself with a title or with a job description or because we are so much more than a title or a job description. And nevertheless, obviously, we do kind of define, and we as a society are so used to defining ourselves by a job description and a title. So that is what I'm doing a lot of at the moment. There's so much more that preoccupies my days. I'm also training in trauma healing, and I'm doing an intensive 3-year course with Thomas Hübel, and that is all-encompassing and includes really, particularly also, as you may imagine, healing your own traumas and really going inside of yourself in ways that I hadn't done previously. And I've spent a lot of time searching inside of myself, and my book is about that. But this is another level and another deepening of understanding, which I actually genuinely think, and I think we both agree on that, right? That life is that journey. And so I'm spending a lot of time reading about trauma and feeling into myself and learning about it, and also immediately using that in the work that I do, whether that's with my group coaching, my course Step Into Your Power, or whether that is in my one-on-one coaching. And what took me here, I worked for nearly 30 years in the not-for-profit sector, helping women in countries affected by conflict and extreme poverty to rebuild their lives. And in essence, actually also realize the strength that they have inside of themselves and how they can rebuild and change their lives, which is actually a very similar process of knowing that all you need is already within you to then create the changes outside of yourself that you want to see. So that's how I am where I am.
Wow, yes, there's lots in there. No, that's wonderful, and we're going to touch on some of that as we go into talking about the things we're going to talk about today. So you have very kindly already read my book. You're the only person other than my husband that's read the whole book.
Oh my God, an honor, literally.
And you've written the foreword for me, which I am really grateful for, and it's wonderful, and it means so much to me. I think I should probably say how we met. We met at an Aspire conference that's run by Dr. Sam Collins back in 2017. And you did a speech then about leading and inspiring others to lead themselves, which I think was probably the forerunner to where Fears to Fierce came from. And then I'd asked you to mentor me, and from there on in we've kind of gone. And weirdly, do you know what I realised the other day? We've only ever met in person that once at the conference.
I know.
And that's so strange, isn't it?
Yeah, it's incredible, Jackie.
At some point we will meet again in person. We have to organise that. But I just realised that day, I was like, wow, it just shows you how amazing our online sort of communication and things is now, because it doesn't feel that way at all, does it? It doesn't feel that way.
Absolutely not.
So would you be able to just sort of give us a little bit about what your initial reaction was to the book, and if there was something in there that you learned? And I know it's my personal experience about having breast cancer, but was there anything in there that you sort of looked at and thought, that just would never have occurred to me that was that was a thing, or something that somebody might experience?
Yes. Oh my God. Absolutely, Jackie. I think I halfway through the book, in fact, I remember I started reading it and I thought, okay, I'll read a little bit now, and then I finished it, and I couldn't stop reading it. I just couldn't stop, and I think I messaged you saying I can't stop, and this is just, and I immediately was like, okay, I need to send this to this person and this person and this person, and oh my goodness, I had no idea I had no idea, right? And this is also why I start my foreword something along the lines of, I think we all know about breast cancer, and we know that being pregnant, and that's probably about where our knowledge starts. And yeah, we need to check our breasts. But, there is so much information in your book that is so important, and I had no idea of. And I started actually talking to other women already about your book, and saying, like, did you know that you can, that you can really work with nutrition, and that you can do this testing genetically to understand how you digest. I mean, I don't have the right words, and that can make a huge difference to the cancer reoccurring and just looking after yourself. And honestly, most women who had breast cancer did not get that advice, right? Yeah. And this is one of the things that really struck me, and obviously has struck me ever since I've known you, and I knew you before breast cancer. But that is your tenacity and your curiosity, and that when you decide to do something, you go under the skin of it, right? And this is what was so inspiring to me and moved me literally to tears. How you did it, first of all, but also how you managed to describe that in your book. How you take us on that journey. I literally had the feeling I was there with you, through the highs and through the lows, and through this unbelievable determination that you were going to know everything you could possibly know about how to help yourself, because you were going to fight this, right? And I think this, maybe you can say a little bit about this, because that really was the one piece that absolutely just made so much sense to me. And I just thought, why doesn't everybody know this? And why, by the way, when you're diagnosed with breast cancer, doesn't everybody immediately tell you about this and offer you that kind of testing?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's an interesting conversation that I'm touching on with a couple of other people. So I've already spoken to Dawn, who's a nutritionist, and I'm speaking with a gentleman that runs the Yes to Life charity, which is all about integrative medicine, integrative oncology, which is all those other things that you can do alongside your conventional treatment. So none of it is an instead of, it's all an alongside to look after yourself. And I think it's quite early days for it to be fully accepted by the whole medical community, and also some people have to want to go to it as well. I think some people can be quite overwhelmed, can't they, if they say they've all this to deal with, there's all the medical stuff that gets thrown at them, and depending on where you are, to suddenly then go, oh, and now I have to do all this as well, it can feel like too much. And I was already doing, with my background, I'd already done lots of other things. So to me, it was a natural thing to go, right, okay, I've been doing this. And obviously I talk about this a lot in the book. I've been doing this, but have I really been doing this? And I talk at the beginning about accepting the situation for what it is and being really honest about not just going, well, I don't have any risk factors for breast cancer. Look at me. I'm not overweight. I'm not, I don't smoke. I did drink. I'm always active. Oh, well, I don't have any risk factors, so it's just bad luck. I actually was really sort of took a long, hard look at myself, accepted this is where I am. Nobody else can do anything. I have to deal with this. What can I do for me? And be really honest about what I'm doing. And I've had loads of gastric things in the past. So the diet thing was like, okay, let's just do this. And, if I'd been really honest, I knew I drank too much, even though I'd given up, alcohol in the past. So it was like, right, that's the thing. And the tests obviously threw up loads of things that just supported that really that's alcohol and caffeine are not good for me. So I was already a little bit further on, and I think for some people it's too much because there's so much information to take in. And to be honest, I probably went down that route of, it's a little bit almost comfort zone for me, because I'm comfortable with the exercise, I'm comfortable looking at nutrition. I'd always doing my hypnotherapy, and I just took it that little bit further, and with my regular meditation, and actually really made it thing, rather than it being something ticked off my to-do list, going tick, I've done that, and then back to my busy life. And I didn't really look into all the ins and outs of all the treatment quite the same as other women I have done, partly because I just didn't feel like that was where I wanted to go. I just literally, because I was trying to live in the moment, I literally didn't look ahead. I'm like, right, we're doing surgery. Someone's mentioned I might have chemo, but I don't know. I'm just here. All right, no, I definitely have to have chemo. right, we'll look at it, but that all looks quite nasty. Right, we're just going to do that and just see what happens. And I knew all along I'd have to have radiotherapy. I never ever looked about anything about radiotherapy. I just turned up, did it, and because it was like, okay, it's happening.
Right.
So I think it's where you're at, and some people want to get into all that medical stuff, and I was like, I know enough. I'm just going to feel what I'm feeling and do all the things to support my body through it.
Exactly. And I think that's so powerful, and that comes across so well in your book, Jackie. And I think that is actually the most empowering aspect about it, right? That it is, you decide, like, it's your journey. And like you say, and some people might decide to really research into chemo, and others don't, and others will. But the fact is that you can do that. Like, you can stay in the moment, you can make your own choices, and you can still have a sense that there is control is not the right word, but that you are also exercising your own power, right? Because cancer happens and it comes crushing in on you, right? And you didn't choose it. No one chooses it. And so there is a lot that is outside of your control, which you described really well. But there's still some things that you can exercise your willpower and your power and your presence to create, to kind of contribute to the creation of that experience. So you're flowing with life, even when life, and you described that so beautiful in this lovely kind of metaphoric story that runs through your book, which, I can't wait for you all to read. So moving. I mean, wow. But I think that is because it's so tough, isn't it? It's so tough.
Yeah, and I think maybe the word agency is better than control, isn't it? It's about
exactly right.
I can't control this, and I'm a terrible control freak. So that was like, okay, I can't control any of that, but then I have some agency over these other things, and that's where I channeled my energy for myself. That's that was my way of and again, one of the things I wanted to ask you about was, I talk about finding that clarity and accepting it, and that courage, and then feeling that power within me to go, I can do this. And it's that thing of, I talked about it in terms of finding an inner strength you didn't know you have, but I don't know that it's you didn't know you had it. It's that you didn't trust that you had it. And that so people talk about that, isn't it? And it's that not feeling, allowing yourself to feel, and knowing that it's frightening and it's dark and it's horrid, but almost just letting that happen brought me more peace than fighting it. And I've talked with you about the difference between kind of in the past where I would just battle everything, and this time I wasn't passive in any way, but I did allow some of it just to happen. And I know, and I've written, hey, I know you like to talk about allow the not allowing, and maybe you could elaborate a little bit on that, because that comes to me a lot, which is absolutely. Like, just let this be. Yes, it's scary, and it's completely okay to be scared, and just be scared for today.
Oh my goodness.
And then,
do you know, I was listening the other day, I was listening to a podcast, and somebody said something so beautiful. He said, like the song Let It Be. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, I love that song. But you know how we listen to songs but we don't really listen. And so I put it on and I'm like, oh. So I encourage all of you just to listen to it. It's like, let it be, let it be. There will be an answer, let it be. So this kind of notion of surrendering and trusting that there will be an answer, but that if the answer isn't present here right now, there's no manner of screaming and trying that is going to bring that answer here right now, because if it isn't here right now, it's because it isn't here right now. And so in that moment, it's this surrendering. And then the other day I was reading a book, and there was this beautiful quote which said, surrendering is not a passive thing. And I think I put it on Instagram.
Yeah, you said it, didn't you?
Right, because this is the thing, because and I think you described that so beautifully in your book, Jackie, and you just said it. We are all hardwired to try, because we're told, just try harder, just try harder. and so suddenly here we are, and we are realizing that trying harder isn't going to get us through this. So whatever got us here, this kind of conditioning of trying hard, it just will not, because actually the lesson that we have kind of come to learn now is to not try harder. And that kind of just literally hurts our brain, but our heart can understand it, isn't it? Our heart just like, oh, just a moment of breath, just slowing down, just, you know, like the way you describe it, just I'm just going to sit here for a moment. Just going to sit here for a moment because I am tired. I can't try anymore. I'm just going to, and that isn't just, by the way, I'm saying it's just going to know. You just say, okay. You just say, okay, I'm going to surrender. And that is an active act, right? Of letting go and being here. And so it's not that you're giving up, right? So my mum is just, she had a cancer last year and it's just come back and it's terminal now. And you know, we were sitting together and we were talking about it. You know, the doctor said, well, we can do chemo. She's 80. She just turned 80. We can do chemo. We can do radio. We can. And I wanted her to decide whatever she wanted. I would be with her there. And she said, I don't want any of it. I don't want any of it because I'm going to get sick from it. And I don't want it. And what, so that I can live another month? No, I want to enjoy the time that I have now and without anything, right? And then she looked at me, she said, you know, Brita, do you think that that's giving up? It just moved me so much. And I looked at her and I said, no, mommy. And I literally just read this tape. I said, you know, this is not giving up. I mean, this is brave. This is saying yes to life, actually. This is like surrendering to life and to say, okay, fine. Because also I said to her, you know, I mean, if anyone has fought, you have. If anyone has shown how strong they are, you have. This is not, you know, this is not giving up. And that's but it's such a fine line, isn't it? And kind of how we navigate that is, you know, is I think really requires us to have enormous compassion with ourselves and to really feel, just to feel that, you know, this is the right way. You just know it. And your head might come in and tell you, oh, you should fight. And that's because we're conditioned. But in our hearts, we know that now it's something different. And this is also what you describe in your book so well, Jackie. You know, it changed your life. I mean, and you say, you know, okay, fine. I'm not going to go to the extent where I say, you know, I wanted cancer. Like, thank you, no. But now, since I had it and I've been through it, it's changed my life. It's changed my whole modus operandi, like the way I look at the trees and the colors, the way I look at my dog, the way it's just, I'm like, wow, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, you know, there's a lot about transformation through trauma and you talk about some, you know, you have post-traumatic stress, but you have post-traumatic growth and you don't think about it when it's happening to you. And interestingly, I embarked on a yoga teacher training after I'd finished my treatment, and we had all the philosophy lectures, and when they're talking that about various pieces and about enlightenment, and the teacher, he would say things and you'd go, oh, I've had that. And it's not forever, it's, you know, it's moments of it, but you know, and you don't, when you're going through it, you're not going through it in a, and now I'm here and I've got this, you know, inner wisdom. If you allow yourself to, it is that thing of observing and stepping back and just coming out of all the noise and all the stuff and think, you can make your decisions in a different way, and it's a very instinctual thing. It's not something that you think about, and then when you hear somebody talk about it, and I was at a conference recently and all these amazing people talking about transformation through trauma and all these incredible things that have happened to people, and you know, you're not following a tick box, you're not following a recipe, you're just there doing it, and then you kind of go, oh right, oh, was that what was happening for me? Oh, okay. But then there's not an end point either, because you know, there's a couple of things from what you were just saying then about surrendering. So there's the thing within the nervous system, and I know that you obviously have read all the things that you're reading. I've read some of the books that you've been reading, and about how, you know, we need to sometimes allow ourselves to pass through the different phases of our nervous system, and you know, and sometimes we're in fight or flight, and sometimes we're in that very low, what they call dorsal vagal state, where we are in a I don't want to call it in a freeze state, but it's in that sort of where you aren't really interacting and you do withdraw a little bit. And some of the work is being able to regulate that, isn't it? And being able to come back out of that and come back to a more balanced place and allow yourself to move through those states, but know when sometimes you have to let yourself be in a certain place, but then know how to bring yourself back to that balanced state. And I think that's something that I've learned that I didn't have before. I didn't have that very conscious way of allowing myself to regulate and get myself back to being in a calm state, but also being comfortable to go, right, well, we're going here because this is where I need to be, but I know I can get myself out of it.
Right, exactly. And you described that so beautifully actually in your book. This is also what I love about it. You really do also bring in your own knowledge and what you've learned and the kind of the research behind it, right? And that's exactly it. And what is so powerful, exactly as you just described it, if we, with the prefrontal cortex, right, where our awareness, and it's kind of social presence resides, if we have that knowledge stored there, that this can happen, this is the way that I've experienced it, right? So that when I then go into the second stage of kind of fight and flight, I can actually still keep some of the presence in the prefrontal cortex. So I'm not actually completely in fight and flight, right? And so I can just say, I'm okay, I'm sweating here right now. I'm really uncomfortable. I actually would love to just disappear in a hole, right? Just run away, or actually I'm feeling really aggressive, which I'd actually never do. For me, it's always flight. But I can observe in other people that suddenly it's like, so then you're fighting. And what helps me, and exactly as you describe it, what helps me is like, I'm becoming really aware. I'm like, okay. And in that moment of awareness, you also open up a little bit of a choice where you can actually perhaps articulate and say, you know what, I can notice that I'm a little bit activated. And I wonder whether we can continue this conversation later, because right now I know that I cannot be fully present because part of me wants to run away, and then you could potentially in a relationship also, say, and I hope you don't mind, I'm just going to go and I just need to take some time. And then I will come back, and it has nothing to do with you. So you can even find it in you to assure the other person, because obviously that can be quite scary if they are not really understanding what's happening in you. And it does. I have really noticed that it helps me. It doesn't mean that I don't have those feelings, but I can acknowledge them. And that's what you said earlier also, right, Jackie? And it's something that you talk about in your book, about the permission to feel. Like, feel all your feelings. Don't brush them away. Don't kind of put a lid on them. Don't, just allow them and say, okay, I'm feeling this. The thing is, we don't choose feelings. They come up. Like we and actually the more we can allow them and we can understand them and we could put words to them and we can, say, oh, this is how I'm feeling. The more we can then communicate them. And I think, I think we both read Mark Brackett's book, Permission to Feel, which is really life-changing and such a powerful tool.
And I think there's the ability to have other words to describe how you feel and to understand and be able to see the transition of, how that feeling could very easily morph into a more pleasant feeling. And it's like, and what would I need to do to get there? I think that's the thing that I found really useful. And also I feel on different levels, because physically I can feel one way and mentally I can feel another, and emotionally I can feel another, because I can feel physically very tired, which you do during your treatment, but mentally or emotionally I could feel really well. And ironically, I think I do talk about this in the book. I really embraced some of the days where I knew, in fact, it was almost like, oh, it's great because tomorrow I'm going to feel really bad because I've had my chemo today, and I'm going to be able to just sit and binge watch my series that no one else in the family wants to watch on Netflix with the dog all day. And even though I know I'm going to feel awful and I'm going to hardly be able to move anything, I can just do this thing without any guilt, without anything, and that's going to feel incredible. And so the physical stuff was like, it was that separation. I could feel separate and almost kind of quite I wouldn't say look forward to, that's the wrong word, but I could make it less unpleasant by kind of seeing that you know, that physically not being able to do anything gave me the opportunity to do something else that I wouldn't normally do. I certainly wouldn't normally sit and binge watch telly all day, but I quite enjoyed it.
Yeah, exactly. And also it's really interesting. So obviously you've been on my Step Into Your Power course, and I'm actually today I'm teaching the session on care. And I've been really thinking about self-care, other care a lot. And there's something else that's come up for me since obviously things evolve all the time. And you really touched on this, and that is that when the care that we need arises from within us, which is what you're describing, right? So you know your body is tired and your mind is active and can ask, okay, body, what do you need? Right? Then it really nourishes us. And it's also very, very specific to us, right? And it will also change sometimes from day to day. And so whereas before I would really be the person who had this very clear routine every day, I would do the same thing. And it definitely helped me, but it also turned into a little bit of a straitjacket. And then I've observed over the last few years how I've changed. So I still have they're still the same practices, but I don't do them every day rigidly. And so now it's much more, oh, what do I need? And in the morning, sometimes I wake up and say, oh, I'm definitely not going for a run. My body is exhausted. Oh, some gentle yoga. Okay. You know, then the next morning I wake up and I'm definitely going for a run. And so it's really this, whereas before my care practice was mainly steered by my brain, now it's mainly steered by tuning into my body. And this is what I'm hearing you say, which is so beautiful.
I think it's the thing of being able to, I mean, I talk about the routine, and my routine, it does help me, and it helped me enormously to get me through the day. And there's a lot of evidence about, you know, you use less brain power if you do things in the same order every day, because you're just kind of doing them on autopilot. So your brain doesn't have to work as hard, so you can save that energy for doing creative work and things. And I do, do certain things in the same order so that I'm not having to think about it. But then, like you say, it becomes rigid. And you want that little bit of fluidity and almost knowing, like, what's the minimum I need to do to make the day work, and where can I put in other things, or where's my focus on at this point in time, which means something else has to give a little bit, but I need to do enough of it so that it doesn't get lost. So yeah, it's just having that fluidity, and it depends, doesn't it, because we're all different. And you know, people will ask me what I've done, and obviously I talk about it in the book, but it's about picking and choosing, isn't it, what's right for you? Because just because it works for me doesn't mean it would work for somebody else. Very much with the diet, when people ask me, I'm like, well, it doesn't matter what I'm eating, because what I do is specific to me, and it would be wrong for you to do what I'm doing, unless you've actually kind of looked into it and found that what's right for you. And I think, you know, just to wrap it up, one of the things that I've been told, an expression I've been using, that, you know, like tank, putting things in your tank, so like your fuel tank, to fuel you and take you forward, or having it in the trunk, you know, in the boot, almost like weighing you down. And it's, you know, it's those past experiences. What do you do with the things that have happened to you? Do you allow them to weigh you down, or do you use them to fuel you, to take you forward to the next thing? And you know, you don't arrive. You know, I talk about that right at the end. You don't arrive, you think you're going to get there and suddenly it's going to be all right. And lots of people with cancer experience that. You think you get to the end of your treatment and you're going to go, I'm going to pop out of my last radiotherapy, going to go, da! And you don't feel like that, because you're like, oh, well, now what do I do? And it's you know, but then that is life. That's the process of it. You don't ever arrive, and then it's just the beginning of something else. And that's almost been the hardest part for me, that transition from sort of just 12-18 months ago now, and life has carried on happening to me. And as you know, there's all sorts of things that's happened to me in the last 12 months, and I got a little bit like a petulant teenager at times, going, this isn't fair, why is stuff still happening to me? And then I got over myself and was like, okay, because life still happens, you know. And yeah, it's that, it's using, isn't it, everything that you've had happen to you, and not letting that drag you down or pull you back, acknowledging it, but keeping moving forward all the time, isn't it? Without, you know, you talk about trauma, but you don't want to live in the past with it, do you? You need to keep using it to move yourself forward into whatever is next, whatever that is. And none of us know, do we? None of us know what's going to come next. However well we plan and whatever we'd love to think that we know what's going to happen, we just don't know, do we?
We don't. I know. We just don't, honestly, Jackie. And the more I practice the surrendering that we spoke about, the more I can become acutely aware of how little we know and how little we can control. And in some ways, how we can find comfort in this, which I actually want this to be my next book, about trusting uncertainty, because the fact is we don't know. But what I believe is that, say, both COVID on a collective level, but a cancer experience like this, or a separation, or a moving, or a losing your job, or like these really big clear moments of transition, where we move from one place which we knew to a place that we don't, right? And this is a moving, and I'm using that word very precisely because it's a process. It's not from one day to the next. It's a process, and it continues to be a process. But what I actually believe is that those moments just show us what is life, right? Because actually the time when we thought we knew and we were safe got us to where it's not known and not safe. So actually this was only ever an illusion. It was only that the conditioning and this kind of, I mean, try hard, and if I control everything and I don't, then I can be in control. It just crumbled. Right? But even in that moment, it still was, you just didn't look. You just chose not to look. You just chose to ignore. And so life passed you by in some places as well, because it's the good, the bad, and the ugly. It's all of it, right? Life is all of it. And so you might also have not seen some of the love that was coming your way because you were just so intent on controlling, right? Or some of the opportunities to grow and to experience new things. And so, this is what I just so believe. And right now, I'm also, yesterday we went to the doctors with my mom, and it's so funny how we function as human beings, right? Because I kind of, in the last 2 weeks, it's only been 2 weeks since the diagnosis and the painkillers and so on. I'm like, okay, yeah, okay, I get it. I get how this is going to be. That's great. This is great. This, I can do this with my mom, and this is really great. And then something happened. I mean, well, the pain got worse, and the medication didn't work, and we had to go to the doctor, and suddenly it's like, and it's kind of like so funny how we just, and I think it's just a human instinct that we want to somehow, okay, I got this, and then we're like, oh no, I don't.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't. And so then it's like you say, it's every time like I don't, and then sometimes like you say, it's like, no, this is not fair. Like, I'm done. I'm sorry. Have I had my share? I think I had. Okay, and it's kind of like, well, it doesn't work like that. What I do say, and this is absolutely just a belief, these are all beliefs. And I have one belief that I love and that I cultivate, because it works for me, right? And that is that I firmly believe that we're only presented in life with the things that we can also digest and cope with somehow.
That's so weird, because that's exactly what I was just about to say. That's and you kind of think, am I being tested? And it's like, well, no, it's like it's there because either there's something that it's trying to teach you, or that you can cope with this, and it will take you to somewhere, to the next thing, whatever that next thing is, isn't it? Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
Thank you so much, Brita. We'll have to stop now, otherwise we'll just be going and going for hours.
Honestly, just thank you, and thank you for writing that book, and thank you for asking me to write the foreword. It's been just a huge honor, and everybody who's watching this, buy the book for yourself, for your friends, for your family. It's just so moving. And even if you have nothing, fortunately, to do with breast cancer, then still buy it, because it's just a wonderful story of strength and inspiration and power. So yeah,
thank you.
Thank you
so much. Take care.